Welcome everyone to today's Hume Talk Online. My name is Maysoon and together with Etche, we are going to be talking to former pupil Claire O'Grady. Claire was here at Hulme Grammar until 1998 and is now the Deputy Air Officer Commanding Number 2 Group in the Royal Air Force. Claire, welcome and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
No, thank you very much.
So, Claire, let's go back to 1987 when you first joined HGS in Escort. What was your overriding memory of HGS at that time?
So it was a long time ago. So I really had to kind of rack my brains to have a think about what it was like on that first day. And I think my overwhelming thought was I definitely had that feeling of excitement, but real nervousness as well, because none of my friends had gone to the school. I was at Beechwood Convent in Rochdale before then. But I was excited to meet new people. And of course, when you take an entrance exam, you see what the school can offer and like really just want to get stuck in and see what it's like and take advantage of all the opportunities. But I think my overwhelming memory was of arriving there and being met by the teachers, and just that feeling of being made to feel super welcome and really supported. And actually that was something that followed throughout my entire time at Hulme. But I think that's so important when you're joining a new school, when you're only 7 years old, different environment, but to feel that right from the start, I think paves an outstanding path then for the remainder of your academic journey.
What were your favourite subjects at school and what was it about the subjects that you loved?
So I definitely wasn't a sciencey person, I think it's fair to say, and I'm still not now, albeit I'm trying to recall the information as my little one studies for science exams at the moment. But I was definitely more on the humanities side, and I would say that I really enjoyed English, and I think predominantly because I enjoyed reading, and I enjoyed doing creative writing, and I think linked to that is probably why I enjoyed history as well, because I was always fascinated about learning moments from the past, what we'd learned from that, and how different eras, formed where we are today. And then kind of on a bit of a flip side, I really enjoyed doing music as well. And I'll never forget Mrs. Dixon was our music teacher, and her outstanding piano playing in the music room, this huge grand piano. But it was an opportunity to really kind of explore the more creative side that I think, I particularly enjoyed.
I think we're definitely opposite doing sciences.
Yeah.
So those are your academic subjects that you loved, but what extracurricular activities did you enjoy the most?
So the beauty of Hulme is it just offered so much. And the one thing I was always involved with was swimming. And so I used to swim for Aquabears, which was a local swimming club anyway. And so I competed for the school throughout my entire time till I left when I was 18, and actually finished as a swimming captain. So that was that dominated a lot of my time actually outside of school. But I also vividly remember all of the school trips that we did, particularly the skiing. So when I went into senior school, so the skiing trips every year, and I don't know whether they still do them, but were just fantastic. And they were a great opportunity for both the boys and the girls' school to get together. Because I think back then it was much more separated than what it is today. But it was a chance to, experience a completely different environment, get out in the mountains and really challenge where your boundaries were in a new sport. And probably the reason I enjoyed music is because I played the flute. And so I did that throughout my time at Hulme, and was a member of the school orchestra as well. So I tried to take advantages of much that was there and available.
Thank you. As we have mentioned, your professional life has seen you forge a successful career in the RAF. In a nutshell, what does your day-to-day job entail?
Yeah, so I'm a people operations officer by background, which I think most people would kind of associate with being human resources, very traditionally anyway. And in the early days, you're very much focused on those skill sets. So it's the infrastructure, the people, the discipline, a bit on finance as well. But the more senior you get, you tend to broaden. And so you don't really stay within specialisation. And so the job that I've got at the moment is available to any profession. So you could be a pilot, you could be doing HR, you could be an engineer, intelligence, whatever. But the job of the group is responsible for the 24 air bases that we've got across the United Kingdom. And we've also got global enablement forces that basically, if we need to insert medical capabilities, security capabilities, to give an example, then they have a high readiness, and we insert them into theatres of operation. So that's around 13,000 people. And so with that, my day-to-day role is really helping the two-star, who's my boss, who's in overall charge, I'm his deputy, coordinate that activity and make sure everybody's got what they need. So I run the financial plan for him, which is in a region of about 170 million. We work out all of the workforce requirements, both for the day-to-day activity, but also when we need to force generate people to deploy overseas on operations. I've also got safety and assurance in my team, and I've got what's called DATM, and they're responsible for looking after all the military use of airspace across the United Kingdom. So that's slightly different. And of course, you'll have seen what's going on across the, you'll have seen on the news, the global instability that we've got going on at the moment. And so as we look to what that global threat might be to the UK, we've got to make sure that we have our units able to defend their positions as well. And so we're doing quite a bit of work on what's called transition to conflict and how we would secure our home bases. So it's a real range of activity. No day is the same. And clearly, when you see anything on the news, be that change of administration in the US or activity that might be going on in the Middle East, that starts to inject time into our diary and to look at, right, what does that mean for the UK and specifically for the Royal Air Force?
Very busy then, very busy day to day. So what age were you when you decided that you wanted a career in the armed forces, and what inspired you to pursue that dream?
So my dad took me down to the local air cadet squadron when I was 13. And he said, you know what, Claire, I think you'd love this. It's got outdoor activities in it. You've got your sports, and there's a bit of discipline thrown in as well. And I've never shied away from that. And I think, you know, certainly Hulme was definitely a very disciplined school. So it's something I'd always grown up with. And I joined the squadron and absolutely loved all of the activities that we did, be that weapon handling, or we did weekends away camping, and we got to visit the RAF stations as well. So I got to speak to people that were in the RAF and understand what opportunities were available. And I think probably I'd say even only a year, 2 years into being into the Air Cadets, I thought, you know what, this is probably for me. And the reason I didn't join the CCF at Hulme is because back in those days, females weren't allowed to join. It was just for the boys' school. So yeah, I stayed on my journey in the Air Cadets, went through the ranks there, and then I applied for a sixth form scholarship with the Air Force, and they actually sponsored me to do my A-levels. And it was at that point, it was kind of like, okay, I've got a place if I want when I finish my A-levels, or I could go to university and apply for a bursary. And to be honest, I'd just fallen in love with the idea of joining up and just starting my career. And there's been opportunities since to get an in-service degree. So I've actually got an in-service master's. So I don't regret the path that I did, but I think I'd probably say from about 14, I kind of knew I was on that trajectory, and the sixth form scholarship and then into it just kind of cemented it.
Well, that job sounds like it was made for you. Your career will undoubtedly have included much foreign travel. Can you tell us about the places you've been stationed?
Yeah, so almost linked to your last question, it's one of the reasons I really wanted to join. You know, I wanted to go and see the world and experience things that were really different. The one thing about the RAF is that we tend to move jobs every 2 years, and so that can take us anywhere. In the UK, I've been based on I think 8 different units across the UK in the 27 years that I've been in. I've managed to do a sort of tour overseas in Cyprus, which was fantastic. And then obviously operationally, that's been really important for me, because I think to have credibility when you're in an armed forces, you've got to do the operations. And so I've done a range of deployed theatres from Kosovo, out in Qatar, Iraq and Al Udeid. And I'd say they've probably been the more outstanding tours that I've had, because they are very different environments, working with very different people and for a specific aim and mission that the UK signed up for.
So sort of linking to this question, how do you balance your career and family life when you're moving around? It definitely must take a lot of planning.
Yeah, it does. So I'm married to another service person, Pablo. So he's currently the station commander up at RAF Coningsby. And we've got an 11-year-old little boy who's first year of secondary school. And he probably injected the challenges into juggling the career, if I'm honest. I think as a military couple, you're very much used to, you know what the lifestyle is. And so quite often you start your relationship, if you don't meet on this, even if you meet on the same unit, it's unlikely you'll always be based at the same unit. So they tend to be very much commuting at weekends. And that becomes a real norm, if I'm honest. When we had Harry, it threw a bit of a different thing into the mix. We were lucky that we were co-located when I had him. And then since then, we've really just had to work with we've got career managers, and they're the ones that appoint us. And so we've had to work cleverly together to make sure that Harry's had the most stability that he can whilst fulfilling the obligations that you have when you have a life in service. And I would say that I definitely don't think I would have been able to do it if I hadn't had my parents. So on a couple of occasions, certainly when I did the year at Shrivenham to do my degree, my husband was selected at the same time to do the same course. And there was a lot of overseas travel. And my parents moved in with us. So they did the childcare for us when we weren't there. And then when we were both deployed, I did 7 months in Afghanistan, and my husband was deployed out in Cyprus for 5 of those months. And again, my parents moved in and had my little boy full time. He was 5 at the time, and he doesn't really remember a lot of it, but he was definitely, my mum will still say he was ready for you to come home. And I've been away for that. I got into this job 8 months ago, and prior to that I was at Bryce as the station commander, but I lived away from home during the week. And so I'm definitely in a period of time now where I'm the one that's at home Monday to Friday. My husband commutes home, and it was the right time for me to be home as a mum whilst Harry starts his secondary school journey. So yes, there is juggling, but I'm really passionate about women being able to have careers in the Air Force and have that family. And so I never make any apologies for when I need to go to sports day or I want to go and support him doing something, because I think that's really important. And actually we see more men doing it now as well. So I think that ethos of family and support has definitely matured and is a lot better than it ever was in the military.
I'm sure your son loves to hear about your travels as well. And what is the most challenging aspect of a career in the armed forces?
We've probably kind of touched on it, and then I think it's the time away and the bits where you're separated from family, because you never get those times back, do you? There's moments that I spent Christmas Day away from Harry, and I'll never get that Christmas Day back. And it's not because I regret it, but they're harder. I think they're the hard bits for me. But even though it's challenging, I have to always make sure that I'm still enjoying the job. So you've got to be passionate about the job that you're in to be able to make those sacrifices. And I think having done it now for 27 years, then I clearly still have that passion. But yeah, the hard bit is when you're not living with your loved ones all the time.
So following on from that question, what is the most rewarding aspect of a career in the armed forces?
Yeah, so I would say it's being part of an enormously supportive family. And I genuinely think I treat the RAF like my family. It's a relatively small organisation when you think about it, 32,000 people. And I don't think I would ever go onto a unit and not know somebody on that unit. And so the friendship groups are really different. You have your close contacts that you always stay in touch with, and you have people that you work with, but you don't necessarily stay in touch. But you could literally walk in to any room and you literally just pick up from where you left off. We're all pretty like-minded. We're massive team players as well. And those friendships and those bonds that you form, I would say, are absolutely for life. And I think, for me, I have experienced things in the military that have that have kind of been so formative, you know, things that I would never have dreamt of doing, and things that I feel like I've really kind of helped in trying to make a difference, particularly during my operational tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, regardless of how that has played out since. You know, the contribution at the time I felt was absolutely worth it. And then, of course, you know, some of the other added advantages, and I talked about the extracurricular stuff you get to do at Hulme. You get that offer when you're in the RAF as well. And you know, I used to swim for the RAF. In fact, I got back in the pool about a month ago and competed. You get to go, you can do any sport you want. And they provide, that's kind of what we call an offer, and it's something that's really different to what you get in civilian life, and I would say is a huge advantage.
What advice would you give to our pupils who are looking to pursue a career in the RAF, and what advice would you give to your younger schoolgirl self back in 1998?
So I'd say to anybody, male or female, or however you identify, it is the most fantastic career. It gives you a wealth of opportunities to be able to develop yourself both personally, professionally, with opportunities to travel and to be part of an incredible team that really does make a difference. And so if those kind of things kind of chime a chord with you, that's what you want out of a career, then the military is definitely something I would look into. If I was to look back at the person that I was in 1998, did I ever think that I was going to be here today? Probably not. And some of that was driven by the time, you know, that year, you know, we couldn't join the CCF. There definitely wasn't a push for females to go into military careers. There were much more gendered type careers that people went into, and military wasn't one of them. And of course, because I didn't go to university, it was, I wouldn't say frowned upon, but it was a bit like, okay, that, you know, everybody else went to university. And that knocked my confidence, I think, a little bit. But I think if I could look back now, it's do what's right for you at the time, because there is a path for everybody once you finish your time in education, and that path is your own journey and you'll pave your own way. So have confidence, and you'll succeed.
I think that's definitely really good advice to take on board. So Claire, we are running out of time, so I just wanted to say a huge thank you on behalf of all the pupils at Hulme Grammar for taking the time to talk to us today. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck to all of you.
Thank you to everyone for watching today, and we'll see you at another Hulme Talk very soon. Goodbye.